Hi everyone, my name is Alex and today I'm going to take you on a journey that I have been through exploring the AI frameworks and what really worked for me. I'm going to show you the three frameworks that I have worked with, which were CrewAi, Langflow and PydanticAI. What made me choose initially the framework, what made me actually choose to switch off and choose a different one, and why I'm currently using PydanticAI and how that matches with my technical stack. Hopefully this video is going to help you understand a bit for yourself what framework you can use and how that framework is actually aligning with the technical stack and actually what you want to achieve in it. So in my first framework that I chose actually when I started developing some sort of agent systems and started exploring it was CrewAi. CrewAi is a very popular framework. There's a ton of videos of how it's working. What really drove me initially into the framework was actually how easy it was to set up agents. And these agents were doing things that I didn't even know that it's possible, or I was only reading about of people building these complex systems. And that's of course what's in the name as well, which is that it has different type of agents that were executing tasks, assigning tasks, reviewing progress and adjust delegation. For me, that was really like magic of how that's working. And CrewAi is very good at actually abstracting that information and really making you see how the team is working with very minimal setup. CrewAi is of course a Python framework and has grown tremendously from the time that I was using it a couple of years ago or a year and something ago. However, the core functionality is that it really abstracts for you the agents. Well, that can be seen very beneficial, and of course, like I mentioned, it's a Python-based application. So the hosting capabilities are limitless. You can use serverless, you can use some cloud servers, etc., or even locally. For our cases, what I was always trying to do is to use serverless. And you will see that some of the choices that we have made throughout this journey of frameworks were based on that technicality. So CrewAi was matching that. It was building these agents amazingly. However, that abstraction led me to something that I was not too comfortable, or actually I wanted to explore more, which was, well, the actual prompt engineering. So I wanted to learn more, how can I manage these systems and how can I actually set up my logic and my agent roles, etc. And also being able to be more closer to debugging, but really understand how can I navigate these systems myself with the bare bone LLM, if I can say it like that. So there I started to explore different type of opportunities exactly because of these challenges of really the prompt wrapper that CrewAi provides, which works like magic. But again, you are losing some of that experience and learning. So what I was looking at was, okay, I want to have more control over my prompts. And what landed me to Langflow initially was that when I ran the application, I was amazed about their low-code solution. So first of all, this is just a screenshot from one of their flows that you can build, and just see how easily you can have different nodes of uploading files, making some function, and then actually writing it into a vector store. For me, that was like, wow. I was able to reuse their nodes, as they call them, but also what really drove me even more further was that I was able to control my prompts because I was able to write the bare bone prompts, but also I am able to build my own custom nodes without losing that ability to only rely on the nodes that were provided by Langflow. And Langflow does that amazingly. First of all, their visual interface and design makes creating workflows super easy. So it's very visual, but it's still very developer centric. It's really a low code tool. It's way different than other tools on the market that have some visual sort of connecting of agents. Another thing is that, like I mentioned, I have full control over my prompts and the flow. And it even helped me then visualize more what are the flows and how the agents actually are interacting. So going even one deeper level compared to CrewAi in control. Next to the flow design that I was able to create just using the UI, Langflow was also providing this API endpoint out of the box. It had its tricks and things how to actually use it and how to pass data to it, how to authenticate it, etc. Again, these libraries have grown tremendously. The Langflow that I was working was 0.7. Right now they're on version 1 and above. And actually their UI has changed tremendously from actually what was initially. So they're growing amazingly. So coming back to the API endpoint, this really helped me just find a chat template of a UI on the internet and connect this chat UI to the API endpoint executing my custom workflow. That was amazing. So what really drew me into Langflow, what made me use it and become my main framework at the time, was the visual interface, super easy, very productive. Second, I'm able to build my own custom components just using Python. And then building these components, I can reuse them in so many different flows. So again, productivity gains for prototyping and the API endpoint. However, the usage that I was having, I started to reach some annoying limitations or situations that I had to deal with. First of all, because Langflow has such a strong driven development community, they were producing versions very quickly. So you want to keep up with the versions because they were introducing new features, new nodes, etc. However, for me, upgrading the versions was always met with I had to also adjust a lot of my code. I had to figure out ways of why certain flows are failing. It was difficult to debug, particularly because these were system errors. Some of them were just not yet properly documented. And the other one was related to the hosting, which was related also to the debugging. Because I wanted to utilize as much as serverless as possible, as I mentioned, as my technical stack. For me, it was important to find a solution that was close to that serverless architecture that I'm always trying to have. So I stopped at AWS Elastic Containers. However, that's not fully serverless, of course, because Langflow in its core needs a server to run on. So that was one of the first two limitations that really was starting to become a lot of my backlog that I had to fix because of upgrade versions, or I had to really maintain the clusters and everything, and that was way more difficult to operationally to maintain. So that's made me start to explore other frameworks, which were more core focused on the Python itself, so more close to the normal Python process that we're writing. Being able to host it serverless, of course, for all the benefits of serverless hosting, like cost optimization, simplicity operation, isolation, etc. And have as much control to the core of my agents and their prompts, etc. So that is how I arrived at Pydantic AI. First of all, what I really loved by Pydantic AI and made me start exploring it was the team. The team is, of course, as you can see from the name, is from Pydantic, which is a very strong library for Python type safety. You can find a lot of tutorials on that. So the team was very strong. It was a very early library, but the team was already had a proven track record. The other part was that I was able to write clean code, because most of the code that I had to write was just Python, pure Python. And the setup of actually setting up agents in Pydantic was incredibly easy. To show you this, just look at how clean and how easily you can add a Pydantic agent and create an agent. And it was covering exactly the points that I was mentioning from the beginning. It was pure Python code. I had full control over the prompts, and actually I was able to, of course, host it serverless, which I will get to in a second. The other things that it was providing, which were just additional benefits, was, well, of course, the data validation that comes directly from Pydantic. That made it very strong for not only prototyping, but actually ready production applications, which was amazing. And last but not least, one of their products that they are having even with Pydantic is Logfire. Logfire, I have to say, I have used throughout these different frameworks that I mentioned, different logging platforms for AI process and AI agents. But Logfire is the one that, first of all, has the maturity. So from a UI standpoint, they have really made it very easy, and functionality that maybe you can see in other monitoring tools, which are more in the early stage, they are missing some really basic UI. Like, for example, something that scrolls in with you when you're going through these massive logs. So that was very nice, and they have made it amazingly easy to integrate with Pydantic AI, of course, and the logs were very clear of what is inputting into the agent and what the agent is outputting. And I have to say, my debugging days compared to Langflow have drastically decreased because it was way easier to monitor. And any other issues that I had with my code, the serverless in AWS like Lambdas and CloudWatch was helping me very easily to debug that information, because it was already a very native process for me to use, as I have built a lot of flows in other for other processes. So of course, these were the benefits. At the moment, with my usage, I continue to see these benefits and I don't see any potential cases that are happening to make me switch at this stage. Some risks that you need to consider or factors is, of course, the library is still very early. It was only initially deployed late last year. However, I believe that is shown that the team itself is very strong and will continue to expand it. For example, with the current popularity of MCP servers, the team actually, and of course the community, because it's an open source, was able to produce features that were able to very easily connect to these MCP servers. So I believe this library will continue to grow. And their goal is really to simplify the development. So to recap, I started with CrewAi. For me, working with these initial agents was like magic. And I was able to understand more what are the best practices of actually how these agents should interact and you should order them. However, with my need to learn more about prompting and to have more control about prompt and experiment more, I started to look at Langflow, which initially grabbed me with its low-code interface, developer-centric, the productivity gains that I was able to do with their API endpoints, but also their custom components. However, the upgrades and the need for me to debug some version controls and my current code when I'm updating versions, I wanted to find something more close to my current workflows that I have been used to. And that's where PydanticAI came into. I was able to use my serverless applications. I was able to write more native Python code, and I was able with their logfire tool to debug easier. In the end, each framework serves its needs, and each framework can help you in your different development journey and actually your setup. I hope this video has helped you understand a bit what made me choose a different framework and why I had to switch off. Thank you for watching. I hope this journey that I shared with you helps you choose the framework that will work right for you. Good luck and happy coding.